And good morning, everybody. This is Simon with Trading Perform Coaching and ToughTrader.com. Important legal disclaimer there. Basically just says past performance not indicative of future results. There's significant risk in trading derivatives. Please be aware of the risk and understand what you can and cannot afford to lose. You can lose all your capital trading futures, obviously, so be keenly aware of that. Past performance not indicative of future results. I'm basically just sharing my trade plan with you in hopes that it'll make you a better trader. That's the goal here. So long story short, let's get started with the day. Number one, first thing, obviously, non-farm payrolls, right? Let's just cover that real quick, and let's look at what's been going on here. Clearly, futures, like we've been in this, rotation where value just keeps dropping, right? Let's just start with what the profile looks like, okay? You've got from the peak, and not counting the holiday, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days now. We're on the 5th day, right? Let me make sure I got that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And today we're trading at 28.66 right now. That is 6 days of value dropping lower. It's an extremely rare event, right? I haven't found it. It's been a while since we've had 6 down days in a row, okay? So the risk, there's two sides to the risk here, right? If we keep pressing to the short side, you are likely to get run over in a face ripper at some point. We're setting up for a face ripper at some point. We're pushing back into, if you look at this chart as a whole, we're pushing back into what was former resistance at this point in this 66 to 66 and a quarter, right? The obvious target right now is this area right down here below at 59. So I've been looking for a long side trade the last couple of days, and it has not developed as far as the face ripper push to the upside. And I have no idea if we get it today, right? Clearly, the market is worried about something. I don't quite have my hand on it. But more importantly, if I simply – hold on a second here. Let me just a sec here. Hold on a sec. I need to get something fixed here. Oh. Okay, so I apologize. Someone was blowing up my phone, and I had to get them to stop. So long story short, if you look here, look at all the – okay, so if we look back from the left and you try to figure out where markets are going to stop going down, right? So look at how it was when we've had past corrections and where we've got responses from. So see here where we rolled over and we pushed right down into the heart of what was prior support and resistance, right? And then we rebound off of that. Notice that last day. So if you'll notice this day where we reverse, right? There's two qualities to the days we reverse. So I'm going to open these 2 days up so we can see. On the day we gap down, right? Excuse me. There we oh, didn't mean to do that either. That didn't help the situation, did it? Here we go. There we go. Let's spread that out. So when you look back to the past to get an idea of what it looks like on a larger time frame, right? Notice that we gapped down from here. We opened an A period actually inside of value from at least a week's value perspective, right? And if you'll notice, there was two things that were important. See that value area low right there? And then we created value at some point in the day. So this probably didn't get created till later in the day. It's hard to tell where value was early on, but we obviously opened drive lower, right? And just like yesterday, after we stopped the one timing, even though we broke, so let me flip back here real quick. So yesterday, where we stopped the one timing, and so if you're an options, let's put it this way, if you're an options trader, right? If you did this, right, on the 50-60 back, even though we broke a low, you ended up doing quite nicely on the push to the upside, right? As Peter demonstrated yesterday. This is a very high odds setup in almost all markets where you stop the one timing, you get the 50-60 back. So the challenge for us as futures traders is that the problem here is that your entry is roughly 28.73 and it ran all the way down to 28.67. Not horrible, right? But what you had to be keenly aware of is once we were trading above this 50 retrace, right? See we came back into the 50 retrace. You would have gotten stopped here, but see how we closed into the 50 retrace after this period right here? We popped back above and we backside tested that 50-60 again. And that's what launched a 14-point rotation back to the upside, right? So if you go back and look, a second. If you go back and look on the date on that last date there where we were looking at where we reversed, right? It's the same pattern, right? So if you're trying to find a way to get long without getting completely annihilated or run over, right? What you're waiting for, the easiest way to do that is to, if we have one timing to the downside, wait till we stop one timing, look for the 50-60 back, and understand when you get that 50-60 back, so this is where we stopped one timing right here, right? This period ended right here. And you can see we made the 50-60 back right into this period. See how it closed right on F period on this 30-minute? So this period, so understand how this worked. This period closed right here because that's where that period opened. So see how it just squeezed just behind the 62 retrace and then it launched. They make this setup, these are half-hour bars, they make this setup sloppy on purpose, right? So that's where we get into the order flow to figure out what our entry should look like or shouldn't look like. But what you need to understand from the bigger picture there is that 50 retrace, once this gets established, you are highly likely to come out with an outcome that looks like this by the end of the day. It repeats over and over again, right? Excuse me a second. Incredibly, my house flooded 2 weeks ago, and the house that I'm renting through Airbnb flooded last night. We had about, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 inches of rain in about 2 hours. And so I have to move yet again this weekend. My wife's taking care of getting a house. But I was up in the middle of the night moving babies out of rooms and then the lady tells me that the house is flooded before. I was like, it stinks like it's been flooded for days all of a sudden. Anyways, I was pissed. So long story short, I was up at 1 a.m. moving babies around the house. So the other way that this can work, right? So see this here where we pushed up and see how value closed with a V-shaped profile, right? So there's 2 things you want to pay particular concern to, particularly considering where we're trading right now. Notice that on this day, right? See how we came up to value area high from the prior session? There's a hole in the profile. We came up, we rejected, but see how once we established above this 28.33 here, it was just this, even if you weren't long, it was just a solid slow grind up, right? And there's 2 things that are important here. Even if you are overall bearish on the market, for that day, once you get above value, it is very above the prior day's value area high. The short is tough to make work. Could it work if you were looking for it? Yeah. What it forces you to do is pick it off perfectly, and then the rotation down isn't that big versus how big the rotations are once you get underneath value, right? One more example. I want to give you an example of what it might look like based on today. Let me see if I can go back and find it really quick, and then I'll give you the levels from today. Okay. By the way, I'll be focusing exclusively on ES today. A, I'm tired. I can't do 2 markets today. But B, I just need to draw my focus in a little bit sharper. Let's see when we find these down days. Okay. So C, this is a good example. So we're going to use both these days, this whole series right through here of examples because we pushed down, right? So see how we opened up underneath value? So on this day, what I'd have 2 targets that I'd be concerned about, right? The first one is when I look off to the left, what would be tested? So see how we came into this point of control, and even though we traded them, these are untested points of control below, right? So you'd have this level here, and this level here, and this was obviously a nasty down day, right? So look how that day unfolded. First of all, notice that we don't stop the one timing to the downside. Okay, so it can get tricky, and it's not obviously guaranteed, right? So again, the difference between a swing trader or an options trader versus a futures trader. This is where we stop one timing to the downside, right? This comes in at approximately New York lunch, and that's important to know. When we stop, thanks, Peter. When we stop one timing, to the downside over New York lunch, there's very good odds that we will punch one more new low before rebounding back to the upside. Okay. But if you were a futures trader, right, look how this, and an options trader, look how the first 50, 60 back. So this is the bar where you stop one timing, right? You draw the 50, 60 right here. Notice we come into the 50, 60 retrace. Before we broke the new low, notice that if you're a futures trader, first of all, you got the counter rotation back up. The first time back in that 50, 60 did give you a trade, right? If you were an options trader and you established here on the 50, 60, look where you were 2 days later. It's a big deal, right? You actually get fat rotations out of that. I'm pretty sure, Peter, you would say on near-term options, that's probably a double at least, right? So, and then what's the other way to look at it? So you look at it from this day here where clearly we traded below value, right? How did this day unfold to get this reversal? Oops. Okay, so see this day here, we opened, we closed, we opened, and the number one thing you see is that value actually was at the low of the day, and we had a poor low. They had to come in and fix this low. This is a poor low. In case you don't know it, that's a poor low. Okay, we came in, we opened, and notice that we did this stutter step, and there was 2 areas that were critical here. But the most critical thing out of this was, notice how the trap at the low, right? So notice that we're not one timing up or down, but notice as soon as we break that first 30-minute time frame to the upside, which happened after an hour and a half, right? So this is 10 a.m., 8:30, 9:30, 10 a.m., right? The number one, the first 50, 60 back off that peak, which also aligned with the backside test of prior day's value area low and the prior day low, right? Resulted in a monster trade yet again, right? If I were an options trader, I'd be hunting that trade like I were out of my mind, right? Number 2, notice that once it broke in, you could let it break in and start working the backside tests. And again, the order flow, how am I doing on time? I'm doing fine. The order flow should be such that this sets up properly. Does that make sense? The order flow should be such that this sets up properly on the backside test and then gives you the punch. So what you have to be aware of is 2 things. A, once you get the one timing to stop or you break above that first half-hour time frame, you're hoping for that pullback. But then the second thing is, once you get the setup from your delta entry, right, your order flow entry, you got to know that you have a potential rip to the upside. So this was 628. I want to go show you all this, what it looked like, because if you looked at this day, you would have gone, my gosh, it's so bearish and we're breaking below the low. Most people, when you're looking at the chart like this, right, pulling a couple of days, okay, so look at that chart, right, and you see this close. All you would be reading about on FinTwit and TV and StockTwits is how we're going to crash. That's all you'd be reading. Gap down, traders trapped above, right? So first, what I want y'all to see to make sure that you get this picture clear, look what happens after that, okay? So don't believe the hype on the downside move. Stay balanced on how you're looking at it, right? That punch below where everyone got all hyped up about how low it was going was the bottom, right? And we're getting a very ugly open this morning and below prior day's session, right? So let them panic out, but be aware. Once we stop that one timing, get ready to go in. Now, if you look at this, this comes back on 620. This is this goes back to the 27th, right? If we come back in here and we go back to 627. And do I go back far enough? Chart settings. Oh, not the blue circle of death. Come on. Load it up. Load it up. It'll take just a second. It'll load it. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't have done that. And so while we get the circle of death, let me do this really quick. Huh. You can't stop me. Oh, there we go. What date was I looking at? 6/27. Really? You didn't load it? And this is my Sierra charts. I should easily have the data on this. Oh, 4/23. There we go. 6/27. Sorry. Okay. Here's 6/27. Okay, so I want to show you what this day ended up looking like. So we should tank here right at the open. That is not what 6/27 looks like. Hold on a second. There's a problem. Let's solve it. Okay. Not that one. Maybe this one. There we go. 6/27 into 6/29. Maybe it was 6/20. There we go. We're going to just tighten this up until I find this. Hold on one second. There we are. That's the ugliness right there. That's the day right there. Okay. So now I want to show you two things. Number one, when you look at this chart, right, the first thing you're going to see, this is the open. This is on the 28th. I don't understand why it doesn't have the 28th listed, but that's fine. No big deal. It's just missing the date there. Marking it. This is the open, right about here. Number one, see VWAP. Okay, so number one, look at this reversal. When you look over here, right, notice what that push comes from at the end of the day, right? See the impulse move above VWAP, the backside test. Once we establish above VWAP, number one, because this is what our day is probably going to line up like, right? Notice that you don't get the major, if we can't get above VWAP, right, all the tests into VWAP after the open, 24-hour VWAP, all get rejected. See that? Where the big change comes outside of the one timing is, notice the negative space underneath VWAP. From that point on, even if we trade underneath VWAP, once we get that negative space, you want to be pushing for that trade. Even if you didn't catch the bottom at all, right? If you did not catch the bottom at all, right? Look where you end up. There's the close right here. This is the close of the day. Right there. Okay. If you waited and you didn't mess with the bottom at all, once you established with the impulse move above, which rolled to 27.12, and you started working these backside tests, by the way, I remember this day, we actually got this long off the low, if y'all recall. But even if you remember these pushes back to 27.03, and then I remember this day because I made the stupid mistake of shorting right here. And I got run over, and luckily I bailed myself out right at the end of the day and caught this little rip back up from 16 to 21. I remember that day. Actually, it's photographed in my mind because I was so mad that I shorted there after doing everything else perfectly. So look at the steps. Stop one timing on the 30-minute time frame, right? Number two, you get above VWAP, you're looking for the dips down. You're looking for negative space behind VWAP, right? If we go take a closer look at this off the low, right? When we come back early in the morning, that first hour, here's the open, right? Notice you had two-sided price action, okay? I would generally skip the first half hour anyways, right? But we pressed down. I'm going to go through that day real quick, and I'm probably going to miss the open by a couple minutes, but I don't care. If they open drive higher, it's non-farm payrolls. I got to make sure they're just not going to jam it down my throat one way or the other. And if they get it above VWAP, I'm looking to work pushes back against VWAP. Okay, so number one, following our process, right? Let me expand this. Okay, we don't have one timing up or one timing down, right? If you look and forget about pre-market, just look at where we were from a trading standpoint, right? when we're pushing up through here, and I'm just doing this by eyeball. Usually I have the computer finding this for me. But what's obvious is this 10-14 is my biggest delta up, right? Notice that once I get underneath that delta right here, I don't think I have a bigger one on top, right? Notice as soon as I close underneath that delta, this is the first bar with the point of control underneath. Notice they try to close underneath. They couldn't. They save it. First bar that closes underneath, long liquidation, right? Notice as we're long liquidating that 11, I'm going to step you right through it as if we were trading really quickly. 1160, then 1139, 1053, but there's your 1226 right at the low. And then also notice the algo is triggering the momentum push to the downside right at the bottom. So you've got to accomplish two things. You got to get above 1226 and 1053, right? Additionally, you will see that we had no delta divergence at the low. Let me make sure that I'm saying that correctly. We had no delta divergence at the low. So look what happens. You're waiting, you're waiting, you're waiting. You know you got to get above this 1226 and you got to close above this star. Well, that happens right here, right? So this gets tricky. You close right here, but you're not above. Notice this is where you had to go in on that trade, that 26.98. And if y'all recall this day, so speaking specifically to members in the room, a lot of you were conflicted because you couldn't take the stop back down to the low. The easiest way to handle this trade, this is a 6-tick bar. As soon as this thing closes, right, buy it, put a 2-point stop in. If you have to reduce size to make sure you don't get smoked and it's a volatile market, if you see this setup, right, just know we're buried way underwater here. If you're going to speculate off the low, when we get to the low, it doesn't give you the backside test, right? Then if you look at the push to the upside, right, we come up. This is now the biggest delta. The biggest delta is now replaced right here with this 1383, if everyone sees that, right on top. And we almost have a 1,000. We don't get a delta divergence up here again. Let's see here real quick. Okay, this 1383 becomes your kingmaker right here. See that? We're going to do the same thing this morning. I have no intention of trading until we get past the first half hour. Anyways, that was the exception there. That was pretty clear that that was going to be a reversal, but let me see how quick I can get through this. Because if we do this now, it'll be easy to do it in real time in the market, right? And realize we're doing this without the benefit of knowing where the value area low is or prior day's low, right? That 1383 becomes kingmaker, right? So the first thing that you'll notice is the first close above, right, actually gets tagged out below. They do a second tag above. It gets closed out below, but notice you haven't pushed a bigger delta. And what's the problem with this area? We're trading right on VWAP, and VWAP is noisy, and that's why you're getting stopped out there. It's important you realize it because we get focused on the price action, and we lose the fact that you're just going to get a lot of volume and noise at that. Also realize that's a rotation from 94, right, to 05. 10-point rotation is usually going to find a counter rotation. So on that impulse move, the other thing you're looking for is, hey, can I get a 50-60 back, right? Because everyone's going to be looking. Everyone who's read any book on stochastics, or excuse me, fibs, is going to go, can I get a 50-60 back in here, right? And you'll see we came right back to the 50 retrace. But notice it's still working up against this 1183. See how it can't get above? So it comes out to 50, right? But you have to get above the 1383. It's still the biggest delta of the day, right? Then notice we roll back down. Look what we roll back down to. Right to that structure of the old biggest delta right down here to the left where we had to break out. The 619 backside tests comes right back up here. See how we're playing ping pong here? So let's pause for a second. We haven't made it above VWAP. We haven't impulse moved above VWAP. We closed on a small range bar above. And we have the largest delta above, and we haven't replaced it. And we're just ping ponging between these two. The market's building energy. Look at what time it is, right? So now watch as we're sitting down here. See the lack of big deltas all the way through? Normally at the bottom, you'd print a big delta. We don't get that, okay? You then print a 1304 here, right? See that right there? Say you print that 1304, and they test down, and they attempt to break. That 1304 now becomes kind of like your boogeyman right there. You got to get above them, right? So notice that you push in, okay? They reject. See how they're just coming right up to that delta right there? There's your push to the downside. That's your momentum push. Sorry for guys on YouTube. I'm having to go through this quickly for the guys in the room so they understand what we're looking for during the day. Okay, Look at your momentum push to the downside. We close above. We backside test it, right? Generates another push. Finally, look at that right there. We push to the upside. Notice we just print the biggest delta of the day on that 2644, right? Notice as soon as we close above this 877. See how wide that bar is? That's a big volume bar. We backside test that bar and VWAP, push off. 2644 is now your biggest delta, right? But I got to tell you something. At this point, you've stopped one timing, right? You're not really looking for the short. Does the short work? Yeah. See how you backside test it and it pushes down. But what you're really trying to figure out is, how do I hook this to the upside? How do I hook this trade up to the upside? And what answered that was, in this particular case, the deltas didn't. But notice every time we're getting above in this environment, the last momentum push to the downside. See, each time we're pushing above, they're coming back and backside testing that momentum push, and it's giving you a location to the upside. And even if you waited all day long, you didn't hook up anything else, that 10 o'clock, after we pushed above, backside tested, you could be all the way back here at 10:22 in the morning and still grab this backside trade right here from 2703 to 2714, and you're not done on the day, right? Look how big that push is on the afternoon where we roll down. We're testing VWAP, that 1912, right? It's going to become important. See how we push underneath it? Do we get anything bigger underneath? We don't. You could start drinking the Kool-Aid and going, oh, we're underneath VWAP. It's going to fall apart, right? We switch down to this 2980. So notice what happens. We come up against the 2980 and we reject. Those are valid scalp locations, right? If you're willing to take the risk, those are valid scalp locations. But notice as soon as you close above that guy with a point of control above, which happened on this bar, this frustrates me, frustrates everyone. That is the biggest delta of the day right there. As soon as you close above them, you are gone. That is a trade right there. If you entered at 2706, that is a trade to 2724. Okay, almost a 20-point rotation up. Okay, so what are we looking for today? The big deltas. You have to decide what you're focusing on, whether it's counter rotation or rotation intraday, right? Right. So what you are looking for is those big deltas. Expect on a day like today to have a stop or two in there, right? Just understand it's going to be volatile because of the nature of the market, right? It's simply going to be volatile. NQ's been heavy as hell, right? It's just been monstrously heavy. That's the only way I have to describe it. Hold on a second. You are looking to get above value area low and then above value area high. I'll give you those numbers in a second. And by the way, NQ is immediately back above prior day's low, right? So that first test is at 7407.44, and we're 7407.50, and we're back above it. And ES, have we opened? Sorry, I'm 1 minute past. ES is just at yesterday's low, just at, right? And obviously traders are looking to trap. Okay, so that being said, also above the big delta, right? So let's go look at what we're actually dealing with today, right? Okay, so pre-market, right? There's your 2047. Is that what I have there? I believe I am in agreement there. I'm looking at my other algo. Hold on a second here. I have 2248 at 7:46 a.m. Let's see this really quick. 7:46. I actually show, okay, so I have conflicting data. I show this is the biggest delta. You got to understand these are pretty close pre-market, this one and this one. I would say you have to get above this just to be on the safe side, Randy. You have to get above the 2869.50 to be on the safe side. Those two are too darn close and the size of those bars, right? This is what you have to get over this morning to push, okay? Or get another star on top so that we get a momentum push to the downside. And you can see when we opened, we tested right into the top of this guy and couldn't break them. Right here, we tested it and we're below. So we're below prior day's low. I'm going to pull up the profile so we can see that. Sorry for flying through this. Really, I don't want you to do that. Here we go. Let's try this. There we are, even if I have to do it this way. Okay. Okay. So the first thing I'd be concerned about outside of the one timing is going to be this right here. Value area low. Let me make sure I got it exactly correct. I'm not concerned about that. So this is prior day's low, 28.68. I'm concerned about getting back inside 28.71. The immediate target inside 28.71 is the anomaly where the volume point of control and the TPO point of control, excuse me, apologize, are in the same area. There's another valid anomaly right here at 28.80. So if you remember what we were trying to get back into, this was yesterday's value area low. We couldn't get it. We tried above. We fell back below and they fell away, right? So that's also the top of today's value, which falls in right there at 28.83. No shorts for me above 28.83, period, end of sentence. I don't care. 28.95 is your clear upside target. If that happens, and you better believe it can happen in a single day, they can rip it, right? You can see that we've already trapped back inside, right? We've already trapped back inside prior day's low. I'm not trading the first half hour, so I'm not aggressive enough to take it, so I won't be taking it, right? But I want to see a push up, and then I want to see big deltas, delta divergence. We know all the patterns that we're looking for in here, right? I expect initial rejection out of here. If you don't get rejection, if they sweep this 78.75, expect a push to 80.82 and then a backside test to 75.74. If you look in Asia, that held last night for a long time. It didn't break until after non-farm payrolls, right? So this would push us back into the Asian and early European session up in here. And if we get above that 80.79, here, I'll show you how that corresponded. Okay. I want to color these pink so I remember where they are. Pink. Pink. Okay. So if we'll look at Asia, okay, this is Asia. See how that 80 area became really pivotal at 7.79. So the first thing, and then you'll see that 75 initially. Let's see, Asia. So initially we pushed below, consolidated, got above, and then this 70.75 originally was, see how they're trying to hold that 70, that 75, 76 area there repeatedly. They tried to hold it. They busted it below in late Asia. Then they drove it up. And you can see that's been the resistance overnight coming in from the Asians. Once we broke below in the European session, right, we got below VWAP, and they actually respected it this time. So you got to get above this structure that's already there, which is supported both from yesterday and from overnight, right? You can see how many times they try to push in. And you got to get over VWAP, right? So remember, if you don't want to get crushed and you're looking long, you're not even trying to figure this thing out until you get over this 28.72 right now. You're not even trying to figure that out. You want to see an impulse move above. And then what you want to do is relax. You don't want to go, oh, I missed it, day over. You want to go, oh, now I'm looking for my setups on pushes back and be really patient, right? If you're going to be aggressive in this, right, first of all, you want to see where that first half hour bar is going to close and whether we're one timing to the downside or one timing to the upside. Right now for this session, the point of control is at 28.68 and a quarter, right? What you'd want to see to know that we're one timing is you'd want to see the point of control shift down, have us get above, and then push to the upside. The reason for that is because that would show you that we're not searching for value. If we're going to trend down, point of control will shift lower and price will shift lower as we go down and look for value and we look for buyers, right? So This is a pretty critical area, right? And the last question asking is if OTF's involved. OTF, the signature of OTF is that they will not let it get above the last swing to the left. And if you look from yesterday, how this whole day ran out, right? And we come back over here when we're trading from a smaller picture, right? When we look at this as a smaller picture, look at where this actually started to get constructive to the upside yesterday. Here's when we come down here, right? See how this is the last swing over here to the left? And even though we punched a new low, we were actually able to get above this swing right over here. And even though we punched a new low, that's really what kind of changed the character for the day. On this last push, this was the trap back in, right? And then once we cleared above it, see, once we cleared above here, that was the short squeeze back to the upside, okay? So you want to be very keenly aware if we start pushing down, that you want to at least see, depending on how aggressive you are, right? You want to get a gauge for your smaller entries against, hey, have we broken a swing? And then what do the setups look like within that swing? If you're going to try to swing it from the low to the high, like I did yesterday, remember I was up on NQ 10 points. I let that come all the way back against me and give me a 10-point stop, and it ended my day, right? There's a price to paying for trying to catch that swing, and the price is sometimes you just get stopped for the day and I couldn't take any more risk, right? So, and that kind of ruined my day because it would have otherwise been really good. I did try to grab the 2880 at the end of the day on ES after taking my hour break. I couldn't get that done. That would have been a 4-point trade. It would have been nice to get paid there. So getting down to business. Right now, what I am most interested in is, can we get above an impulse move above? And 1 second here, control bar 1, no control bar. Can I get above 28.7150? That's lies right here. Notice that conveniently coincides with where the 24-hour VWAP is, right? I can't get over VWAP, and I mean impulse move above and then start working the backside test, right? Within this structure, right? Within this structure, we're going to be very keen on what are we looking for? Delta divergences at the low, right? We're looking for delta divergence at the low. Specifically, we're looking for green bars with negative delta, right? Can we get a green bar or nut bar with negative delta? We're looking for our last momentum push to the downside. Right now, that stands right here. Again, I'm not trading the first half hour. That's this bar. Notice the first bar that closes above, immediate lift, right? This is telling me that they really tried to push hard and get a retest of that low. Notice that came, that 2278 is our biggest delta downstairs now, right? We've surpassed the other deltas, the 2047s, right? That 2078, we've closed above, and we have backside tested it. Notice the volume push. We now have a new biggest delta, the 3067. You know why that delta was so big? We just broke above value area low, right? Notice it wasn't the prior day's low, value area low, and we're breaking above yesterday's value area low. The next target up is going to be into that 2874, 76 area, right? So even if you were trading it early, which I'm not, but if you were trading it early, there was your biggest delta, there was your backside test, there was your, right? Or you could have simply taken the close of, even if you didn't take the backside test, close above the last momentum push to the downside, and that gave you your first push up, right? I expect up. I don't expect a continuation down. I expect up. NQ's actually on an open drive higher, and so is ES at this point, just FYI, right? So just let it work itself out. We're hoping to get above this VWAP and then come back and test big numbers. Remember, if we close above this guy, the first backside test into this 3067, you now need below 3067, right? You now need below 3067 to get any push to the downside. The opposite side of that trade is a close below your first backside test, or you do half and half, right? Take one at the close and one on the backside, stop right above for a push to the downside. We'll see how they handle it. And I know I'm at VWAP, so what do I expect? A boatload of noise, right? Also, to address everyone, if you're looking at your own delta, I have 3 different data feeds on Sierra Chart, and all 3 of them in the first hour are going to give me dramatically different reads. I trust this particular data feed comes directly from CME, I trust that CME data feed. That's the delta I'm trading off of. You've got to know your own system well enough to know what you're going to trust and what you're not going to trust, right? The other thing this tells me immediately is, unlike yesterday where we were having a lot of difficulty getting everything to function in the first hour, everything's functioning perfectly the first hour. I'm free to take risk, right? I'm free to take risk. Now notice, you just got a 2023 huge delta divergence, positive delta, closed at the low. If you are aggressive, you are looking at two trades. This creates a conundrum, right? Biggest delta, but delta divergence, right? If you want short, your stop is now this. I don't want either one because I don't like this noise, but a close below this bar, right? And a close below, really what you want is a close below this bar now, and this whole area now becomes your resistance support point right there. That whole thing is now resistance support. If you're aggressive, you're simply shorting that 2023. That's a huge delta divergence. I understand that it's non-farm payrolls, but that's what you're shorting. Your stop's going to go right here. If you're okay with that stop, right, you're literally putting your stop at 73.50. So you're short 70.75 for 73.50. That's a pretty inexpensive stop, okay? You're still under VWAP. That was the initial push. Your hurdle there is you got to get underneath that 30.57. Your secondary trade is let it push in. If you're looking for a downside, which I'm not, right? If you're looking for a downside, let it push in, let it come back up. Just realize you have to give this whole area is valid now. This whole thing is valid for trade entry, for the short side entry. If you're looking for it, and if you're uber aggressive, when you see that print, about 60% of the time, that does it. And here's the deal. If that holds, your RR might be fantastic on the short. You're going to risk from that 70.75, right? So that's 71 to 73. You're risking basically 2.5 points, right? 2 3/4. And you might have a 5 to 20 point trade if we fall apart today, right? So very important that you at least recognize that in real time. Again, I'm not trading it because I'm burning the first half hour, and I'm actually pretty convinced I'm looking for I'm not going to start. I've missed the short the whole way down. I'm not going to start trying to make that work now, okay? So it'll be very interesting. The inverse of that is if we impulse move above it, this area now becomes support, right? Expect noise around VWAP, right? So they're not going to let it go gently into the night around VWAP. You would expect noise normally. And we just formed a shooting star in the 5 minutes on NQ. We'll see where they go with that. I think people are way overcommitted on the short on this thing, but maybe this time is different. Maybe this is the time they really melt it. But I haven't had a really big short in the last 5 days of rotation down. And so psychologically, when you sit there and you trade and you're like, I missed the whole short, now I'm going to start shorting, it's usually the wrong time to do it, right? So I'm going to wait for at least one really nice fat upside rotation, right? One really good strong day up before I start entertaining really trying to press my shorts. And then I'll go to work on the short side. That's just my own concession to the fact that I didn't take the shorts when they set up over the last couple of days. I did not believe we had significant downside. Also, the new high is at 29.17, I think, right? That's like that's 30, 50 points away. That's like a day and a half of good upside rally, okay? That's not bearish, guys. That's not like even like a market correction. That's like, oh, we pulled back a couple of days sideways with barely any pressure. So I'm not looking for that. If we get above this, right, this area, this 72, 71 becomes very important. And it makes sense. Why? We're at value area low. If we trap back into value area low, you would expect, oh, everyone has to come in, and there's plenty of room to the upside from there, right? We're also at the swing high from post non-farm payrolls, right? That's 732. That number comes right here, right where we had the high, right? So 71, 73, and 70.25 and VWAP all become important. My suggestion is you let them work it out. If you're aggressive on the short and you're fine with the stop, that's your entry, just like I pointed it out yesterday. I'm just not going to start shorting fifth day down. And I may regret it. I'm not taking it, and I'm not taking it in the first 15 minutes of the day. So hopefully we work it out. Internals, let me see how we're looking on internals. Let's see. First of all, NQ is not below prior day low. That's not bearish, right? It hasn't filled the gap yet. That's up near 74.58. Okay. Gap fill, which all the retail traders are looking at, is up near 28.78 on ES, right? We're below VWAP, but trying to trade back into value area, right? Trying to trap back above that 71.50, which we're having a difficult time with. And everyone's staring at each other and trying to figure it out. We don't quite have a handle on it. I can tell you, sell pressure diminished significantly as here. I'm going to flip to the other screen real quick. As we pushed him to the low, sell pressure. Okay, can we fix that, please? Holy moly. What is going on there? Wow, it's like a hall of mirrors. Okay. Here we go. Really? As soon as I move it off that screen, it's okay. As soon as I move it on this screen, it goes nutty. That's weird. Okay, so notice we're above that, right? So that point of control just closed above, right? We're back inside value. If you don't close back underneath this area, that is long. Swing traders, alert, alert, right? Peyton Manning, right? Alert, alert. You just got above your biggest numbers, right? That is bullish, okay? I'm looking for pushes back against this area to see if I cannot get a setup for a push back inside at this point now, right? Again, if you shorted, you had a low risk short just like yesterday, you got tagged out. Also realize we're trading non-farm payrolls, right? It's going to be a little bit more volatile than it normally is, okay? Everyone who shorted that shooting star on the 5-minute, if you look in your own charts, just got steamrolled on NQ. So what you want to do if you're aggressive now, right? And again, non-farm payrolls, you're going to catch noise. You're now looking to get long 71.50, and I would put my stop below this swing low right here. I put my stop below that 69.25, maybe 2 ticks, right? So 68.75, and I'm actually willing. I'm not sure how smart this is, but I'm actually willing to take that small. So let me pull up my domes because I don't have them up. So I'm going to start, if I can get my domes up in time. I totally missed that area, guys. Sorry, I'm not taking it 73. I just wanted it right there into that 72. If they'll give me one more test down, I'll take it. Hopefully we get a better test to the downside. I'd already have my almost be at my scale at this point. I wanted it right into VWAP, right? So let me see if they push down one more time. This area becomes very, very important, guys. That's all I can say. So let's hope for push downs. I'm going to limit in 72.50 for the first part of this trade. I'm sitting at 72.50. I know it's before the first half hour. That's bullish. I hope I just didn't miss that trade. Damn, I think I missed. Look at NQ. Face ripper time. Okay, non-farm payrolls. Guys, watch out on the short side. NQ is on freaking fire. It's ripped. 50 points since the open in pure open drive higher fashion. We're looking for pushes down. Let's hope we get one. Gap fill on NQ on tap. Whole trade just like that. Let me see if I can pull over my screen so you can see that. What the hell is going on with this? Here, let's see if I just disconnect and reconnect this. Oh, you know what? I know what the problem is. Damn. I am. See, all you got to be willing to do, that was all right, but you need to be willing to flip on the other side of that trade. Once we got above the VWAP, you need to be willing to flip on that trade. You would have gotten your money back. Also, so know in your journal, right, Mari? So you know for next time, I traded in the first half hour. I took the short on non-farm payrolls. And notice the number of stops. How many stops you're taking on the short side versus the long side, right? It's all okay. You just want to know what your long-term number is so that you can get a handle on whether you want to do that. I know what the deal is here. Sorry, guys. I've been a little bit on goof patrol here, trying to make that rule work. Let me see if I can get this to go. Go to meeting. No, there we go. Join me. Oh, damn. That was a beautiful setup. And I didn't have my dumbs. I was so committed to not trading the first half hour that I literally, no, I don't need your super duper professional one. I just need your regular log me in. Okay, what is my number here? Damn, I missed. I saw it and I didn't even open my trading notes because I was so sure I wasn't trading the first half hour. Daniel, I hope you caught that, brother. That's perfect. That is a perfect setup. So I'm looking for pushes back to get long, guys. I'm actively looking for dips. I expect them to be shallow if they give me a chance at all. Let's see here. Oh, I don't want that. Here, this will make life easier. Look at the drop in delta sell pressure into the lows. Perfect structure, right? See how we had the biggest delta right there? First close above, right? That's why I wanted that 72 so I could tag back on. Again, the delta is going to be different here on these because it's two different data feeds. First time you backside test into there. See ya. Okay, so we know what we're looking for. We know what we're waiting for. Now all we got to do is get it. We have punched right through that 74, 76. Guys, I'm afraid I've missed the whole. I didn't get my dumbs up. Did anyone get the 72? Anyone? 72.50? $20 points is pretty good, Daniel. But yeah, we're way in the hole. Look at NQ. Look at here. I don't have NQ and I don't have ES. I'm totally pissed at myself. Okay, here. Everyone who was short just got face ripped. All right, so let's see if we can get constructive now. Back to the upside. Notice that it did reject right out the bottom of the white zone. See that? You got initial rejection. Now we're above. This should now serve as resistance, this 76, 74. We should be looking for, in general, this 76. I can just draw with this thing. I don't know why I'm messing with it. This should now be the support area, right? Whether they dance around it or not is support. Underneath, look for a trip back down. But my guess is we're going to come in here. All the retailer traders will try to short. All the retailer traders, oh, it's gap fill. I got to short it. Destroyed. I would not short that gap fill. I would not be looking to fade this morning at all. We're too far in the hole, and it's not a bear market. Okay, so my day may be done. I don't even know what else to say. That I don't know that it's coming back. So let me get refocused and see if I can find another entry without feeling like I'm chasing the thing. So here, house, close. Wait, clear all drawings, close. And now I'll just shovel this on over to the right and we can see it. So that's how it works. You had to be Johnny on the spot. As soon as we closed above that big delta, right, above VWAP, backside test, bye-bye. That's literally all the time you had to figure that out. So we did a good job. We did a good job. It was shorting the right, Mari, by the way, you shorted the right area. If that was going to work, that's where it was going to work. And the reason why you know that, the reason why you know that's accurate, right? That's exact. Let me tell you, this is exactly where you want to short every single time. Let me tell you why. Because if you're wrong, this is immediately wrong. See how you didn't have to go, oh, I'll give it 5 points behind and see if it works. It was to the tick, right? To the tick. We got above, backside test. And then this is the first point of control above the bar. This is the first bar with a point of control above these two big deltas. See ya. That's exactly where you want to take a short because you don't have to go, oh, I'll see if it works in 10 points, right? So anyways, let's see if we can get another setup. That's as open drive higher as you get on NQ. Great job. Great job, brother. Peter got long the calls, up 30% right out of the gate. That's beautiful. Great trade, Peter. So you were looking for pushes. What we're hoping for is pushes back down. And so what we do is we reset now, right? Where's our biggest delta? This is now our biggest delta right here, right? Bulls will want to see this delta hold, right? Close underneath, this becomes resistance, right? But as long as this holds, so this backside test right here, right? If you're aggressive, it's not enough of a rotation down for me, but it's right into the white zone, right? You want this to hold, this area right here. There's a long way to go. So that was your, if you're aggressive, that was your aggressive entry right there, right? If we get underneath, unless something different forms up here, right? If we get underneath this guy, right, this now becomes your resistance point, okay? So we'll keep working that. I got to switch over my other chart. If you're looking for the long and you want a super aggressive long, as long as you don't, again, as long as you don't close underneath, that's what you're looking for. And I'm going to stress that. It's non-farm payroll, so it's close underneath, and you're 1 minute, I'm pretty sure, till econ. So keep that in mind and hope econ pushes it down really quickly would be nice. I will check Forex Factory really quick. There it is. And we have nothing. Guys, I would expect continuation up. I would expect continuation up. So on a push down, I'm looking for a push to the downside or setup. Hopefully there'll be a little bit of profit taking in NQ and we can get a decent rotation. Looks like they squeezed the shorts out. Look for 50, 60s back, right? Which right now puts us at roughly, drawing this up, $28.71.50. I seriously doubt we get back there. So, but that's where the 50, 60 back is. Okay. And I would expect continued push through the course of the day, particularly if we don't close below this 38.16. Otherwise, you got to get above it or print a bigger delta down. Okay. So, I can't bring myself to take the long here. So I'll wait a couple minutes and see how it sets up. Maybe we'll balance through this area and hopefully they just don't face rip it straight up. That would be our best. That would be our best hope. Again, I'm not interested in shorting unless we get back below about 28.71.50, and then I'll reconsider from there. Also, what you'll see is the value shifted down this morning down to 28.68.25. I missed it. I don't see anyone having pointed that out, but value did shift lower, which is all right. I just missed it when I was talking, right? Yeah, I try to get long too, Mari. I'm with you. I hear you. It's disappointing. You really, as long as you hold above VWAP, guys, for my swing traders, that's very constructive for a move back to the upside. You're looking for weakness here. This should hold, right? If it fell apart, it would be really bad. So for my scalpers, you're looking for specific delta setups, right? For swing traders, you're looking to fade into this, any downside pressure you can get. Notice we haven't closed underneath this bar still. And actually what I'll do is I'm half size. So I'm going to use a half size entry here. And if it pushes down, as long as it holds above VWAP, I'll add to it. I'm going to take a long at So I'm trading this a little bit differently than I normally do, guys, because I don't think I'm going to get the rotation back down. So I'm going to take the 75.75, and I'm going to add again to 72.50. I'm taking half size on this trade at 75.75. All right. Really, I don't want it closing underneath this guy, and you can see we've tested. They're responding to it right away. Okay. So I'm half size at 75.75. I'm actually targeting trend up. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm long 75.75 target. I'm hoping for high of the day. So I'll take a scale to pay for. So if I can get up 4 points from here or retest that high at 28.8150, I'll take a scale at 81.50, and then I'll leave the rest to go. That should provide a pretty nice day. See how we printed that and how we came right up against it and they couldn't get below, right? And guess what? You're closing above your momentum push to the downside, right? That's a picture perfect trend day. That look like normally you go, oh, we're about to have a momentum push to the downside. Close above that guy, right? Someone made a concerted effort to break him. They couldn't. Usually brings an additional round of squeezes back to the upside, right? And remember, ES has not been punished like NQ has, right? So when money flows back the other way, you're going to end up seeing a pretty damn big push in ES. At least you should see a pretty damn big push in ES. So I'm half size from 75.75, unscaled. Not touching it right now. I'm going to see if I can't turn this into a trend day. I will add to it at 72.75, right? I'll be up to full size. That'll put my average, excuse me, 72.50, I'll add to it. That'll put my average at approximately 73.75, right? And from 73.75, I will stop it, okay, on a close below 71.50. That's the only way I have to work it from here. So yes, it's a very wide entry. I don't have another choice. There's no other way for me to gain this unless I'm going to wait for a down rotation. And I'm just concerned they're not going to give it to me at this point. So everything looks pretty damn strong to the upside. So if I see that change later, I'll change my mind. But there's a ton of shorts. You just got to be aggressive here to the long side, I think. I would be very cautious fading this market, right? And then if we get above value area high, right, which is your next target, that's that value area high. That's where we rejected off of yesterday from the prior session, right? Today's value area high is 28.83. You get above 83 and you're shorting because you don't think you can go straight up, best of luck to you. That's all I can say. So, again, I haven't taken a single scale. I'm only at half size, right? I obviously have 3 points there. I'm making a pointed decision not to take my scale, right? So it could easily come back on me at this point, okay? So just waiting patiently. And if I take the stop, I'll shrug my shoulders, right? But you got to take a shot when you're down five days in a row. You got to take a shot for that reversal day. And NQ, wow, I feel bad for anyone. I actually feel bad for anyone who shorted it after days of the short working beautifully. Okay, guys, this is how you give back all your money in one session. All right. Guys so by the way, my tip of the hat to Daniel, who handled that roll down masterfully. But this, okay, that right there, that is a roll from 7,400 to 7,480. Okay, that is $1,600 in less than 30 minutes. Okay, $1,600 per contract. If you mishandled that, if you misstepped, you made an oops, right? I don't care how much money you made in the last couple of days, you got blinded, okay? And I know that there were people pounding the table about NQ going lower. Good luck to you. That's all I can say. That was a horrible run-up. And if you look from pre-market, it was even worse than that. That was just from the open. If you look pre-market, we were down, I think, at one point 40 points. Is that correct, Daniel? Yeah, at one point we were down 40 points, just FYI. Okay. So everyone knows where I'm long. Please manage the trade to your own risk, right? If you need to scale, scale, right? I'm hanging out and seeing if I can't get this baby to push. I'll add to it underneath there. Again, everyone knows where I'm adding, 72.50, right? That's where I'll be adding if I can get there. And I got to take this call. Give me just 1 second, guys. Okay, guys, 2880 is done for me. Okay, so now we're moving on to what a bizarro world, right? I can't believe I got filled on that. How many cards went off there? I guess it's a pretty big push. So my first scale's done. Okay, so now I have to make a choice to move my stop to break even, right? Or let it push. So at this point, if I let it come back on me, it's 5 points back, right? And I have the trade paid for. So I'm just going to sit and let it work itself out, right? Did anyone else get that, guys? I'm looking on the. Did anyone else take the trade? I know that you took a little. Great, Mari. I'm glad to hear that. That's like a picture perfect That's big. I got to tell you, Peter, you got a home run on those options, brother. This thing should rip. Like there's so many shorts on this thing, it should rip, right? So there'll be some back and forth, but I'd be very surprised if by Monday you're not trading all the way up here, right there. I'd be very surprised if by Monday we're not here at this point. That's a long way to go. Maybe even by the close today, but I would hold that little pony as tight as I could. And God help those people who are shorting NQ today. Wow. So one mistake is all it takes, guys. So no one else hooked it up, man. Okay. Take notes. This is what it looks like when it reverses up. So this is important, right? We don't get those 3, 4, 5 days down where value's pushing lower very often, right? So take really detailed notes. Like this will be recorded. It's on YouTube. I'm going to leave the recording running, right? But this is really, really important. This whole pattern played out picture perfect. Look from the open, right? So look how that played out. When we came in, biggest delta right on the open, got above, backside tested it, right? I pointed out, there's your long, right? Came back up, rejected off of VWAP, closes over VWAP, backside test, right? I try to get filled, nothing done. Biggest delta, right? Biggest delta right here, right? I said, I didn't have a choice. I just had to take the backside test of that because I think we're going to push on the trade, right? So I took the 75, 75, 75, 50, right? 5 points there. And now I'm hoping that we just grind it all the way up all day long. The shorts try to figure out what the hell it is they want to do with their life at this point. So staying balanced within picture, right? Biggest delta of the day now, 43.65. So remember on trend day up, okay? On trend day up, right? If you get underneath your biggest delta, it can just consolidate underneath there and then break. It doesn't have to roll over, okay? So the rules change a little bit on trend day up. They tend to use that as support. And the pushes underneath, what it'll tend to do is balance and let VWAP catch up. And then it'll make the push. So what you want to be keenly aware of is even if we get underneath this guy, if we get underneath build energy and close back above him again, right? So look where it's dancing on the profile. See how we've come right up to, right? We came up to value area low, trapped in, and we haven't quite made it to value area high, right? So now you know you got to get over that 4K delta, right? You got to get over that 4K delta to make it to the 83. And then even if we reject off that 83, that 4K should now act as support. And remember, and then here's the other question. Is the above or below on this anomaly complete the auction up? I'm going to go with it just gives a pause, right? So right now support is down at 75, right? We're in resistance. We tried above. And then I would say if we pushed 83, I would be looking 80, 79 for a push and continuation to 95 would be the trade that I'd be looking for. And I'd be hellaciously cautious on shorting above 83. Guys, you're asking to get your ass kicked. Also, it's one timing to the upside, right? If you're looking to short, it's the flip side now, right? Wait till you stop one timing to the upside and look for those 50, 60s back. If you want to short to the downside, look for that to end. But wow, all I can say is on fire. And by the way, what I scaled up at 80, I will reload back at 75. Okay, I will take that back in and add back to the position. Okay, if they give me a chance to do it. And my target today is this 95 right up here. That's what I'm shooting for. So I don't know that we can get there, but you have a lot of people. You really have a balloon underwater here when you look at this. Look at that. That's a lot of people getting a lot of confidence on the short side. You get above this, let me give you the examples again, right? Doesn't happen every time, right? But even when you get it sideways, 333, balloon underwater, gone, closes at the high of the day, right? That one you didn't have a chance. They just gapped it away, right? Even here, notice on this day, when we were pushing down, You get above value area. See that? You get above the value area, push, right? Even if it fails the next day, that value area, that's like freaking, I don't know, some kind of terminal disease for shorts, right? Should give you another example, right? You're pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. Get above value area, right? See how they try to press? They try to press back into the value area, back against this Friday's value, push, close at the high. Realize there was big rotations through here, right, once you were above. But overall, if you kept focusing on the long above value, you got paid. I'm going to give you one more example. I'm going to go back a little ways for this. I need an example of where we pushed down for multiple days in a row. Okay, great example right here. In this case, right, 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4 till we hit a low, but value keeps shifting lower. I know they try to shift it up here. They had a minor shift up, but this is the last day, right? So look on this day right here, right? Get above value, adios. And just the possibility of having this trade makes it significantly worth it for me to keep pressing to the upside once we get above that value area. Now you've got to get above the value area to make that trade work, and we have not done that as of yet, right? We still have not done that as of yet. I want to see if I can find one more example. We've had to have one more example. They don't show up too often. I'm all the way back. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, I don't have another example in there where we open below value and swept through the range. Open below, back into value, and swept through the range. If you combine this whole day into one, that's kind of like what it would be like. See how we opened here, trap back into value. Once it gets above value, they complete the squeeze out. Then, so notice here that you're pretty much one timing all the way through here. See that? See how the one timing ended right here? You got the 50, 60 back. Then once it closed back inside this value area, right, that's where you got the roll down. But we were so far extended above the prior day's value area that made sense, right? We came up and notice what we completed was that last anomaly off on the left. So long story short, if they'll give me back to 75 to 72, I'll add again. I'm more than happy. Please sell it. Please. I will add back this position. So we shall see what they do with it, okay? This is pretty exciting stuff for me. I live for this. I know I can have monster days on days like today. So I'm ready to lock and load. I'd like to get up to a full-size trade at some point today if they'll let me. And notice they're trying to squeeze underneath this guy, and they're not letting him. And the reason why is everybody wants in. So anyways, let's see what they do. Pretty cool stuff, right? So I'm still long my core, and I'm willing to add to it. And if I were long NQ, there's nothing that could make me sell it right now. Not a thing. Daniel, when you talk about your 200 and 300 point moves, you've got enough shorts in that thing to freaking kill a bear. Okay, so I'd be looking for pullbacks on that to see if I couldn't load in. And we're hoping for a push down right now towards VWAP, right? Now, if this falls apart and I'm wrong, so be it, right? But I think I've shown you enough examples, and I can go back years and years and show you those examples, right? So here, let me see if I can do this really quick. Analysis, studies, no. SW, while I'm waiting for the pullback that's probably not coming. SW, no, chart settings. See if I can do this. We'll do it gently. See if I can load 300 days. Bigger data should be faster. Don't blow up my computer. Let's see what happens. Okay, so let's go back a little bit further in history, right? See what we can find. Okay, so see what you're getting. Let's go back even. Let's go back into January. Okay, so see where you're getting those big nasty down days. That's April, right? See that in April? See how we tested below, push back up. That was the one example I gave you earlier. But if we come back over, okay, so see this push, this series of this push down where we actually really did correct, right? That was that March area. So see when we're pushing down here, 1, 2, 3, 4 days where value shifts lower. See that? And on none of those days can we get above value area high. But if you look at this date right through here, right, see this right here? So see when we trap back into value, right? Close at the high, we push in. This is your value area right here. Okay, see once we got above, see ya. There were counter rotations down, but we didn't stop one time until right here. And notice the same rule, right? See how that came right near New York lunch, right? So when we stop one timing near New York lunch, it tends to just be the pause before we continue back higher, right? I'll give you another example when we look a little bit to the right there. See how we're pushing down here and we never can get above value, right? They try, but they never can establish above value. Notice the day that so this day might have been the exception. If you look at that, see it, but it's still pushed. See once, and I can tell you right now, that was a Fed day right there. But notice as soon as we closed above value, backside tested, Fed announcement, we pushed, then they obviously killed it at the end of the day, right? If you rotate lower down to the right, right? So what you wanted to do is get above the previous day's value area. So this is interesting because you actually had that set up, right? See how this worked out. In this particular case, we opened above value, filled the gap, pushed in, and what you would have expected is that value area to hold. And notice as soon as we closed underneath it, that generated a long liquidation. It's the opposite of what we would be looking for, right? You'd say, I don't want to see below 26.45. And you see we pushed right into the anomaly above and it rejected, right? So let's see if we can find one more example. March and April were pretty good. Okay, here's an example of where it worked perfectly. Again, establish above value, good luck on the short. Establish above value, good luck on the short, right? And this wasn't a bull market, right? We weren't ripping up. You were just getting annihilated in a non-bull market on the short side above value, right? So if we get above that 83, which looks like what we're working for right now, again, I will not be closing out the balance of this position until 3:15 today, just FYI, or unless I just see a dramatic reversal, I will not be closing out this position, okay? Or I'll be taking a stop on the balance, right? You got to take a shot when it's on a day like today. But I can just show you 1 million bajillion examples of this, right? When you get above the prior day's value, you are psycho for shorting it. It works sometimes, and you are just in a pain factory the rest of the time. Why chance it, right? I can show you every single time right here. Another example, 1, 2, 3, get above value, backside test value, go. So I'm not saying there's not any shorts, right? It's still respected resistance over here, but the overall gist of the thing was pushes up once you got above value. So the problem with my thesis right now is we're not above prior day's value. That would be the counter rotation is, well, Simon, we haven't done that yet, right? And I'd agree, we haven't done that yet. So it may not work out for me, right? I may be holding this position and going, oh, I could have sold the whole thing at 80 for 5 points, gone home, and I don't know, hell, watched the football game that I recorded last night, right? But instead, I'm going, okay, I know that I've got a pretty good odds of making this thing work, and I'm going to work it until such time as it fails, right? So right now, my key level is 75.75 to 74.25, and I already have my order back in to reload that. Right? I don't want to see it if it gets below. So let me tell you, I'm going to do this. If it gets in there, I'll add at 75.75, and I'll add again at VWAP. And if I get stopped, I get stopped, right? So, but that's how you have to handle days like today. And I'm really hoping that we're just consolidating, and then we make the push into London close above VWAP. By the way, we do have a very large delta almost on top here at 38.25. Let me see what this one's showing here real quick. This 35.58. Oh, there you go, 43.65. I stand corrected. Still different data points, right? Okay. Getting below that, what that would probably do is set us up to balance and chop in between that number and VWAP, right? And what you'd want to look for, right? So see how we're getting this momentum pushes down. They're trying to push the computers or whoever they are trying to push it down. That's what the algo is telling me there. Once you get above this guy, right? So this is the first time over. It might fail. Come back in for a test. Once you get over this guy, that's what's going to start that next leg of that trend up. Get us over the value area. It's natural that traders and computers will be looking to fade that move into value the first time, but I think it's destined to get broken. Is my general gut instinct. If I'm wrong on it, I can live with being wrong on a day like today. Going back to the chart really quick, just to hammer it in again. I want to make sure my guys know this so that you understand exactly what it is we're dealing with, right? As you go back, this is not the right chart. That's not the right chart. Where the hell? That has to be the right chart. Okay, same example there. 3 days down, bam, look at the push, right? It's just enormous. I want to see one more thing. Since that works so well, let's really push our luck. Or we'll let that work on that and see how long it takes. And the cool thing about this is I'm now in the driver's seat, right? If you're long, you can decide just simply move your stop to break even, right? You can choose to liquidate and not go for the trend day up, right? That's a viable option for you. Remember, ES has not been anywhere near as weak as NQ, right? They can reverse it and push it back lower. It is possible. We have not gotten above value area high, right? I just don't think that's going to happen. That's all. So as long as we hold above, even a little bit below into the 70 area, really as long as we just hold this 70 for me, I'm good to go with a long. I'm really just looking for an intraday setup now to add to my position. So on that back push into 75.50, I'll add back to half size, and then down here I'll be at full size in this area. This last push down, I will look for a actual delta setup to get me long into this area. Assuming I can get that rotation down, that would be a 10-point rotation down. Assuming I can get that, I will look for that setup in that area. Okay. Let me see here. This data is all loaded now. Oh, that's freaking awesome. How much data I can pump in that. Right. So I'm going to go back, way back, right? So what we're dealing with time frame wise here is, I can't be more bullish, guys. I can't explain that any better than that. So this is 2017 of March, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So notice they try to peak above value here, and you go, ha, Simon, there's an example of where it failed, right? So if you look, notice they couldn't get a 30-minute bar to close above value, and it did fail. See how they tried to peek their head above, and they couldn't get it done, and it rolled down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I want you to see something here, right? Imagine how many people told you that was the top. Think about it. Think about how many people would have told you that's the top of the market, short it, it's going to zero, okay? And look at where we're at now. But not only that, but look at when they were telling you to short it. Look what would have happened to you just a couple days later, right? You got to know what you're dealing with and whose perspective you're dealing with to make sure they know what the hell they're talking about on the index that they're discussing, right? So notice we get above value on the 10th. See that? Okay. So how did that work? We opened above value, traded back in. Notice the first time we backside tested value, we held, and then we pushed back up. So notice the formula changes a little bit when we gap far away from value. It tends to come back to value. But remember what the rule is. If we open and hold above value for the first hour, what the market tends to do is, even on pushes back in, is reverse back out. It's the low odds trade to bet it's going to fail once you're above value. Does it sometimes? Yeah, sometimes. right? If you look at consistently, when you were trading above the prior day's value after a series of down days, just like here, we opened above prior day's value, bone crushed, right? Let me show you a little bit further over here because I remember 2017. Okay, so see we're pushing down again. Everyone's going, ha, I told you so, right? So look at what failed. How did this fail here? Notice that we opened. Once you got above value, you drove up. Notice on the backside test of value, I'm talking about March 23rd. Big trade response. When it finally failed right at the end of the day and pushed back in. But if you try to short this all day long, so imagine you're sitting there going, I'm going to short this, right? All day long, you needed the last hour and a half of the day to get any relief, and you probably got smoked pretty hard. Not many people can handle being short from 56 to 68 and still be in that futures trade when it comes back around on them. And again, if you look over here, most days, once you've gotten above value, it's giant pushes to the upside. I want to show you one other thing that January of that year, if I can get back there. It won't let me. But again, here you have if you recall, this January started pretty rough. Look at each time we get above value and look at the corresponding. It doesn't always close. So notice it's quite different when it gaps significantly above value. It tends to test back to value, right? But when it opens at value or inside value and then closes above, right, and it doesn't have a significant gap away, what you're hoping for with a significant gap away is that it'll come back and test the value. What you're hoping for if we open at or inside value is once it closes above for that directional move to the upside. So I think that's enough evidence for one day to figure out what we want. Once we get above that 81.50, which I believe is value area high for today, 83, excuse me. Once we get above that 83, I'd expect an extension towards 95. That's as pure and simple a trade plan as you can have. It's got to get above 83 first, right? And again, push back to 75 would have me loaded back up again, and I would welcome it if they could find the ability to sell it. I'd be very grateful for that. So far, no dice, right? And if they fail on this, this is the bull's chance. If we fail on this and we roll back down to the lows, I would then be very concerned at that point. This should not fail, right? This should push. So that's my 2 cents about it. Anyone have any questions? I'm looking on Slack right now if there are any. Nice job, Mari. Mari, you're funny. You know that? Daniel, I can't hear that noise right now. I'm sorry. It can fail. I don't know why you're so bearish. I don't get it. I am totally bullish. So we should stop talking about it for today. You're going to throw me off my game. Oh, you said it can fail and then reverse. Oh, the hourly. I misunderstood it. Okay, no problem. Okay. You said the hourly can fail and reverse, but it's very bullish on the setup. I'd agree. I think it's a great setup. I'm very bullish from here. It can fail, but for the day, I am pretty damn bullish. Let somebody who's trying to figure out the short, let them come up with the selling power to make that happen. That's all I have to say. And come in and fill me at least. If you're going to push it down, do me the courtesy of filling me. And if you're a bear, right, what are you doing? You're going, oh, thank you, Lord, for letting me, they're looking for any relief they can get right now. Yep, I agree. I think the pushes down have to be bought here. Now, okay, so James, guys, we worked on this in coaching, right? Now if you have to control your risk tightly, right? What are you looking for? James, we covered the delta divergences yesterday, right? Get the biggest push in a downside in the rotation and get a close above that, right? Look for the backside test or do the 1-in-1 half entry method, right? So at least you got half that trade hooked up, right? So let me bring back to the guys I coach, right? Get onto your get onto let's get back onto intraday scalp setup, right? So intraday, we know that the buyers have obviously taken control at this point, right? We're one timing to the upside. That has not ended, right? So next, we know that we have the biggest delta of the day sitting right there, and we've just closed underneath it, right? So if you are uber aggressive, we have not gone above 28.83. If you want to take a tag at shorting the backside of this, these are both giant deltas right here, okay? So you have to respect that. That whole thing is your resistance. So essentially your stop's at the high on a backside test of this. Could you tag that 78 for a test back to 74 and maybe even 70? Yep, you sure could, okay? You just got to decide, just like Mari did in the morning, if you're willing to take the risk on a day where we open up like that. Most days when we open up, and this is the beginning of the day, it doesn't end pretty for the bears. Now, there's always a chance that this time is different and we are on the verge of a crash. You get news. They talk about tariffs. Trump tweets something. The deep state makes an announcement, whoever the hell that is. China makes an announcement. Anything, right? Anything could happen. And then you got to figure out, well, what are you going to do from that point, right? But for me, I've been around long enough. I've seen reversals. I've seen 5 days down. Color me begging for longs if they'll push down and let me load up on it, okay? So I'm hoping for a push down. I want to load up on the push down with the proper setup, right? So I'm willing to go back to half size over here, and then on the next proper setup, right? On the next proper setup on a push down, I'm willing to get long. And remember, on strong days, they're still going to respect this guy over here for the most part, right? That guy, even though he's been traded above and we've gotten a bigger number on top, they're still going to respect him on strong days. Okay, so that was your close below. That was your backside test of your biggest delta right here. And if you wanted the short, that was your tag in. You roll down. If you're targeting that 75 to 74 to the downside. On trend day up, that's a harder trade to pull off. The only thing that's working for you is we haven't pushed above yesterday's value area high. And so you can make a reasonable argument that we haven't broken out, that all we've done is traded through the range and squeezed the shorts out. Right, I agree. All you got to do is pop it above. That's all they got to get done, but they got to get it done. So shorts aren't on my menu today at all, unless I just see something incredible, like a 20-point roll down. And I'll go, well, looks like that's over with. And then I'll start working the short side. Now, on the other hand, give me a good up day, and I'm willing to start pressing the shorts because I don't know that we just shoot up to new highs. I think we probably go into balance. We just have too many shorts in the market right now, too many confident bears, and they've been slaughtered 7 years in a row, 8 years in a row, right? And I don't have any reason to believe that they're not good hunting today as well. So again, if you shorted, you got beautiful entry, right? Now you just got to see, you should have taken that 78 entry. Now you just got to see if you can get to 76 to manage a 2-point scale. And the problem here is your RR got a little messed up, right? Because it's actually 78, 79, 50, 81. It's actually 3 points of risk, right? So it makes the trade a little bit harder. And then you're also bumping up. So value, the point of control is at 28.77, and we're sitting right on top of it. So the POC has shifted higher. There's also a risk if we go underneath it that you can make an argument from the way the profile looks that if we get underneath the profile's point of control here, if we get underneath the 77, you can make the argument. But then you're going to have the TPO and the volume point of control from the prior day. So if we're going to trend up, right, we have to accomplish two things here. We have to get above this, right, and what you want to see is either point of control sit there, right, and we don't get underneath, or it keeps shifting up as we're trending higher, looking for value, right? But there's not much to repair up here. Technically, that's a poor top and is begging to be broken. And if it breaks, that's the beautiful target. And it's about a 20-point stretch from where we are right now. And it's within target because it's 78.75 where we closed yesterday, 20 up, puts us just over 95, right? So all of these targets are completely within reach. We've done them recently, right? It's not like we're trying to shoot for something that's ridiculous. So that's my 2 cents. And I am limit at 75.50 for a long. And that just brings me back to half size. And then what I intend to do is this. I haven't even looked at copper today. And then let's let this, and remember, we're still one timing to the upside. Well, we haven't technically started one timing, but I'm going to count that giant bar as one timing. You got to get underneath 74.25 to change that. And then if you want to short, you're looking for 50, 60s back to push lower. But at this point, we can't even get underneath the point of yesterday's point of control, TPO point of control, right? So if the seller's going to show up, let them show up. 45 minutes till London close. 75.50 is the ballpark I'm looking to put in half size. And then I'm looking for the intraday setup to push me to full size. Nice job, Mari, on the long. That was a beautiful thinking. I got to tell you, that was not easy to do. That was really great thinking on your part to flip that. So what are we doing here, right? What's the market? If you look at a bigger picture, building energy, right? We made a big advance. Everyone's kind of looking around. Are we bearish? Are we not bearish? Was that the squeeze up? Are we going to take profits again and roll it all the way back down? And that can happen. Usually those roll downs where we start up and roll all the way back down come in a bear market, right? Where we'll have these huge, like I showed you yesterday back in 08, we'd have them all the time. We'd have these huge extensions up, and then we'd roll them all the way back down. That usually comes in the bottom third of the market or in market crashes or corrections where we get that. That usually doesn't happen at the top. Coffee. Wow, that's absolutely the worst cup of coffee I've made myself in a long time. You got to figure they're going to run and gun that 83 on London close, I would think, or better. Okay, so note here, guys, right? If you took the 78, you weren't able to get your 2-point counter rotation, right? So this is important. Hey, James, can you hear me, buddy? Are you on the Slack channel? Here we come, value area high. And we get above that 83, all the shorts are going to be saying, please, oh, please. There's 83. Now, that's a logical place to find some resistance there. If you want to take a scale there and you're still long, that makes sense. Hey, Peter, how are your calls doing? What are you up now? You got to be pushing a double, right? Or is it because it's too much time? I'm so not happy. I would have loved to push back to that 75.50. Randy, did everything I explained this morning about how the order of the structure worked out make sense? Cool. So, James, did you hear what I asked? Did it make sense against what in our session when we were talking on, was it Tuesday? I think. See how that stair stepped with those. See how the pattern changed from yesterday to today, stair stepping above those deltas, and see how so James was telling me when he did his original count with no when he did his homework, he says, hey, I just worked off the big deltas without any guidance from like the profile and no context, right? And he was saying, well, I had a 50-50 win rate, but most of my trades were 2-to-1 RR or better. He goes, and I had about a 56% win rate doing it without thinking about it, right? And then he and so what I was up 55% on the week calls that I held and scaled, 35% up on yesterday's. Nice work, brother. You should be able to get to 95, I would think. Especially if we can get above 83, 83 should equal 95. Assuming we hold once we consolidate above the 83, you should be able to get the stretch by the end of the day to 95 would be my guess, right? So this is going to be a hurdle. Every retail trader in the world is going to look at that value area high and try to fade it, right? So, or at least hold it there. And my guess is we'll pop it on London. So what I was explaining to him, two things. First of all, contextually, you have to switch, right? So this worked, right? If you got underneath your biggest delta, it backside tested and rejected. But you got to understand the context of the day and know, oh, that's my lower odds trade. Why? Number one, even if we're going to fail, right? It makes sense now that we sweep the whole range, the whole prior day's value. Once we trapped below, it made sense that we swept the whole range, right? That was logical. But then the other part you have to know is just that 5 days down, you're underwater, that what you want to see. So now we're above, right? So now this on a backside test. Here, I'm getting too many lines on this chart. Let's redo this. Let's just erase in this area. Okay, so now this same area, that becomes your support area, right, on the backside test. Now, yes, if it gets back underneath, you're going to have someone trapped right there. But what you'd want to see is this 80 to 78 hold, right? Because again, what so what inexperienced traders do on trend day ups, they try to get it back to VWAP or it's going to break or what have you, right? And it never gets there on true trend day up. It never gets there. So now someone tried to sell underneath, right? They actually closed it underneath. Star push to the upside, right? Close above, the momentum push to the downside, short squeeze up. Usually when we come back to the same guy, right, which would correspond with this over here, you find a responsive buyer. And so they lay off, they reject 83, come back 79, and then hopefully push just like that. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm with you, Randy. As you know, I took my 2 stops and I couldn't get my 3rd trade off yesterday afternoon on ES. And the other thing that when I went back through the day is, okay, I had a huge day on Wednesday, right? Got over, I wouldn't say over aggressive, but all my focus switched to NQ yesterday morning. I talked to a couple people. Obviously, I need to switch my focus back to ES for the sake of the room. And then also I refused to short the 3rd, 4th day down, even though we had the entry. It just doesn't make sense to me, right? But what I didn't do yesterday is I didn't structure it like I did today. And that's all I had to do. Even if you had structured it correctly, you would have taken some stops, but there were good setups to the long side yesterday that were workable. And that's what I didn't do very well. But today is pretty much picture perfect. Had I traded the first 10 minutes of the day, I'd been in freaking just enormously good shape. So at any rate, NQ is looking to yesterday's value area high. When they get above that, I just think the buyers have it all the way through. So, hey, guys, on YouTube, thank you for joining me this morning. Remember, don't follow anyone blindly. Learn how to trade in a way that makes sense for you. I think I'm going to cut the YouTube off. I'm just going to kind of go into quiet mode now. There's not much to do here. Maybe this afternoon we'll pop up another trade. If you have any questions or you'd like to join us in the room for a couple days, send me an email to tradertough@gmail.com. I'll be happy to extend you a 5-day pass. And this was pretty cool. That's nice to get a good day hooked up. So, and these are not easy days to hook up, right? Trend days up are the hardest to get a hold of. And that's because you have to know that the PA switched really quick and then change your rule book to accommodate shallower rotations back, which is why I was forced to take that 77.50, which would, 75.50, which is normally just a horrid entry. Normally I would preach wait for the pullback. I just knew on this particular day, I didn't think you could do that. But even at that, I had to scale back my aggressiveness. So anyways, that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for joining and have a wonderful day. That is how you put together a winning day. Trade safe.